Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Christina McDonald. I'm your state education chair here with California Association of Mortgage Professionals. And this is a really exciting webinar that we have today. Chika Sunquist, the DRE Commissioner that came in January of 2024, had served there for quite a long time and was also a real estate broker and a realtor herself, and has a lot of really great insight into what happened and give us some background on the firestorms in Southern California. Before we get started with Chica, I just wanted to go ahead and introduce Dale DeGennaro, our current state president for CAMP, and also Jason Bellevue, our new incoming president for CAMP. Dale, tell us a little something about CAMP.
Thank you, Christina. I just wanted to say happy spring to everyone. First day of spring today. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm going to ask a couple of quick questions to see if anybody's paying attention or is on the line with us. So I'm just curious. You can answer in the chat. Let me just see if I can open that up. Okay.
So in the chat, correct.
Yeah. Okay. So how many people on the call are currently CAMP members? We got a lot of hands being raised. Nobody's answering in the chat that I can see. How about folks that have previously been a CAMP member and their membership has lapsed?
Hopefully nobody raises their hand.
Well, we got some hands going up. How many people on the call love what they do as an MLO? No hands. No, I'm just kidding. So I just wanted to touch base a little bit on a few things in regards to membership and the importance of that. So what is the most important thing you can do for your career as a broker MLO? I'll help you with that one. Well, besides making sure that you're all up to date with the DRE, of course. Become a CAMP member. Broker originators had 70% of the origination market in 2007. Can you believe that? That dwindled down to about 12 to 15%, depending on whose numbers you were looking at, after the mortgage meltdown, Dodd-Frank legislation, loan officer comp, and everything else under the sun that got thrown at us. And if we had had a larger percentage of that 70% of the market share as CAMP members, been able to save a lot of you from being thrown under the bus like you were. We are currently back to 27% of the origination market share, which is great, and we're growing the origination as broker MLOs, independents. But as we grow, it's vitally important to be proactive in your industry. And the best way to do that, and the only association in California that represents you as the MLO wholesale originator, is the California Association of Mortgage Professionals. So if you're in the business, it's this simple, just join the association. We need you, you need us in order to stay in business going forward. As you get more and more market share, you become more susceptible to a lot of questions being raised. So it's vitally important to have those numbers up. We are cheap insurance. So if you want to buy some insurance to make sure you stay in business, if you're a MLO, it's only $199 a year. Affiliates are $249, and brokers are only $299. If you're a brand new MLO in the business, if we have any of those today, it's free. You can go to the campsite.org. That's thecamp.org, and click on membership and join anytime. So just one other thing I want to touch on, because we do have a legislative day that's coming up. But did everyone on the call know that the primary reason that we got borrower paid compensation back on a percentage or basis points, however you want to look at it, as originators was due to all the efforts that Camp had put forward at that time. I was the president back then again, and we had some great inroads. We had some of our colleagues had some connections with it was the Federal Reserve that then became the CFPB, if you guys remember at that time. And that was extremely helpful in getting some language passed through the CFPB that allowed us to get paid on broker paid compensation. Otherwise, it was going to be just an hourly basis, which didn't really work for the industry at all. So upcoming events that we have Spring Camp, Technology and Legislative Conference, Own the New Horizon. That is May 6th and 7th. And that is a Tuesday, Wednesday at the Doubletree in Sacramento. The first day will feature Megan Anderson of the MBS Highway, and she is our keynote speaker on AI in the mortgage world. And we have that followed up with some breakout sessions and a great trade show expo lunch with trade show expo all combined in one. Happy hour at the end of the day with a DJ. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then day 2, we will focus on legislative. And we have the DRE Commissioner Chika Sunquist that will be back as our keynote speaker. And she will be talking to us from 9 to 10 o'clock on May 7th. We will follow that up going over some talking points in regards to legislation that we want to be talking about and pushing and helping out with. And then we'll go up and do our visits with our legislators. It's a really fun day. It's really interesting to find out what goes beyond the scenes a little bit. If you've never been up, I've never seen anybody go that wasn't happy about attending that event. It's a great event. So join us. All that is free to register. You can go to thecampsite.org and register for free. That's May 6th and 7th. And then I just want to briefly touch on, mark your calendars for our summer camp, and that's back in beautiful Newport Beach, and that'll be July 14th and 15th. It's a great venue and a really great time. So with that, I just want to let Jason say hi, our incoming president.
Yeah, well, one of the things I want to remind everybody about for the Ledge Day is that with everything happening in DC right now, and there's a lot of changes, we know for a fact that there's already word coming down to the state level saying you guys may have to pick up the slack with some of the things that the CFPB used to cover, that this legislation could be introduced here. And that's where we are the feet on the streets to help protect you people and to help protect the brokers and help work with the legislators and the DRE and everybody to try to make sure that we're all in a place where we can continue doing our jobs. So I just want to, like I said, with all these changes, it's more important than ever to try to be involved here at the state level. And
back over to Christina.
So I guess we're going to turn it over to Chika.
I think Christina's going to introduce the commissioner, right?
Absolutely. So, Chika, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, Dale and Christina and Jason. I've been with DRE for about almost 19 years this year, and most of that time has spent working with camp. So I just want to say thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for this continued relationship. So I kind of think it emphasizes Dale's point that, membership in a trade organization is amazing because it provides these opportunities for us too, as a regulator, to interact with you, to learn from you, to learn about issues that are happening where we can help support or be a resource, learn about consumer protection issues. So thank you very much for having me and giving me this time to talk about the things that we've been doing here at DRE recently. I will be sharing my screen in 1 second.
Hey, Dale, questions are in the question and answer section because it says chat is disabled.
Oh, okay. I will
And you
also
can,
be monitoring for those too. Yes, thank you. Okay.
okay, I
Hopefully
see
everyone
that.
can see my screen. And what I'd love to do is just provide an overview of what DRE does, and then get into the executive orders and then DRE fire response, and then open it up for questions. I know I was asked to talk about fire response, but obviously always happy to take questions or talk about issues that are happening within what you're seeing. As far as DRE, our role is to enforce the Real Estate Law, the Subdivided Lands Act, and the Vacation Ownership and Timeshare Act. So we are part of the executive branch of the state government, where we get to enforce the law. Our highest priority is always consumer protection. It's our mission, as you can see on the slide, and it's also statutorily our highest priority. There's a specific statute that says no matter what other interest, DRE's priority is consumer protection. Obviously, for those of you that are within this webinar, you know that we're the ones that issue you your real estate license and your MLO endorsement. We gave you the tests and you passed, and now you're here with us. The subset of what we do that most people don't know about is that we review applications for public reports for developers that are building subdivisions or wanting to sell timeshare interests in California. So that's one cool thing that we do that doesn't get a lot of attention, but it is a huge part of consumer protection for people that are buying a home in a new subdivision from a seller who has had complete control over what's been happening. And we need to make sure that that consumer is getting information about what they're buying into. Also following along with what Jason and Dale were saying about the upcoming legislative day, I also want to emphasize the importance of being active in that, because as a regulator, as I mentioned, our role is to enforce the law. We don't get opportunities to change it or provide input like you would. We don't have the expertise like you do. So, oftentimes we're asked, Chika or Commissioner or whoever, why is it like this? What can we do to change it? What can DRE do to change it? And my answer is always, please go to your legislator, please go to your representative and talk about the issues that you're seeing and the impacts and why a law needs to be changed, because we don't have the power to change it, but you have the power to help make those changes through the legislature. So again, trying to sell lobby day for you. Want to make sure I'm stressing the importance of that. Okay, now getting into what we've been doing lately with the fire response and executive orders. And first and foremost, just want to make sure that I say to everyone, if you have been impacted by the fires, please know that all of us at DRE are thinking of you and praying for you and wanting to do what we can to be a resource to help. If you're a licensee and you need help with your renewal because you don't have paperwork or you need more time or you don't have finances right now to help with something, just give us a call. We will do our best to help you, because obviously your real estate licensure is very important, but it's probably not the first thing on your mind right now. But as you get to that point, give us a call. If there's something that we can do to support you, we will. Same thing if you're, brokers and you have new licensees coming into your business and they're impacted by the fires and they can't, schedule their exam right now, or they need to reschedule it. Give us a call. We're happy to help and do what we can to be a support. I can't even imagine what people are going through right now. So just know that we are here to help and be a support. Getting into detail on some of what has happened since January from our perspective. Obviously, early January, there was a declared state of emergency in Los Angeles and Ventura counties because of the wildfires. And then we as a State Department were called to support the response and recovery efforts. I know it's March, but things are still in very early stages of recovery and rebuild. And so we are still in, as a department, kind of early stages of trying to support the rebuild of the communities. But in terms of the very earliest efforts, one of the things that we were called to do was to prevent land speculation. So what we had learned from lessons, what we had learned from other disasters that we had experienced here in California and that other states had experienced was when there was a disaster and communities were demolished, there were unfortunately people who would come in and try to take advantage of consumers in those situations, homeowners who were very vulnerable. And, you know, obviously we're focused on health and safety and immediate needs, but then had someone approach them and say, hey, I know you're in a dire strait. Let me buy your property from you for X amount of dollars. A homeowner in that distressed state they don't know about the process. They don't know what their options are. Would they rather, you know, turn over their mortgage? Would they rather sell it at pennies on the dollar if they don't have a loan? Would they want to go through the process of trying to rebuild, which takes, you know, so much effort? And so there were a lot of people who try to take advantage of that. And, you know, we've heard stories of people in Paradise where they were offered a few $1,000s for a property that was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they took that offer because they didn't want to have to go through the process, and they didn't have the mental capacity at the time to make a good decision for themselves. And so from those lessons learned, there was an executive order issued January 14th. And then that following executive order in February 4th, that prevents people from making unsolicited offers to homeowners for properties when the offer is for a value of the property that's below market, below what it was January 6th. It applies to properties in specific zip codes, and it's effective through next month, early next month. But again, it's to prevent people from taking advantage of vulnerable homeowners, and it's to allow homeowners time to make good decisions for themselves. We did have a notice published on our website that describes what those kind of unscrupulous behaviors look like, what consumers can and should do, what decisions they can make for themselves, what their rights are related to their properties, and then where to report violations. We've been working closely with the Attorney General's office, with LA law enforcement agencies to make sure that we're getting the message out about this, and that also we're reporting to each other any violations that we're made aware of. Oh, here's the email address. If you're a licensee or you're working with someone who needs to help with an exam and you're affected by the fires, please email us at this address. That might be faster than giving us a call, or if you prefer to email us versus giving us a call, you can also use this. But yeah, again, this unsolicited offers restriction is mostly to help people have time to make good decisions for themselves, gives them time to contact people like you who have expertise in the real estate industry, who know what to do when you have a loan, but your property's been demolished or it's been affected. So it gives them time to make good decisions. Another executive order is related to displaced tenant evictions. So this one's the time's already passed. It was effective January through early this month, but it's still important to be aware of in case you have clients who experienced this, and then you might be able to report it. But it prevented landlords from evicting tenants who were displaced fire victims, mostly in LA County. If their present residence was in LA County. It doesn't prevent landlords from evicting tenants for other violations of their lease terms, like if there was criminal behavior or criminal activity, but it prevents them from just evicting a tenant just because they're a fire victim. The rental price gouging.
Sorry to interrupt, but maybe we'll try to answer some of the questions because we get
I'm sorry. I said I would look at them, but I ignored them.
No, it's all right. So we have a question that says regarding Executive Order M17-25 regarding making offers, who determines what the fair value of the lots are? There are sellers who really want to sell sooner than later.
Yes. And that's a great question. Really appreciate it because it means you're thinking about the terms of the order. So fair market value is already pretty much it's defined in law as, what the buyer and the seller determine and then agree upon. So really the intent of this order is to just prevent people from walking up to someone and saying, here, I want to buy a property for X dollars. The order is not intended to prevent homeowners from selling their properties based on an agreed upon price. We just, again, don't want people to be taken advantage of and say, here, don't worry about all the stuff that's going on. We'll take care of it. Just let me buy your property for X dollar amount. So again, not intended to prevent the purchase and sale of properties, as long as people are able to have the time to make good decisions to determine what a fair market value is, what they want to be able to sell the property for. We don't want the prospective buyer, the land speculator, to make that decision for the homeowner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it sounds like the kind of the rule of thumb here is ask if they want to sell, ask what they want for it,
That's,
versus coming in and offering, I'll give you this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. And then I saw another one in the Q&A, if there was a executive orders to be extended beyond April 7th. I don't know at this point. I haven't heard, but that doesn't mean decisions aren't being made. So if there is an extension, obviously we will communicate that out. Okay, rental price gouging. This one's been the biggest issue that we've seen with the impacts to obviously this recent set of fires, but then also previous fires or disasters is the rental price gouging. Obviously there's the executive order. Here's the technical number, N-23-25. But basically, if you're not familiar with what price gouging is during a state of emergency, either declared at local, state, whatever level, you can't charge a price that's more than 10% of the price that would have been charged before it. With rental price gouging, it's the price that would have been charged, the rental amount that would have been charged before. Let's see. And then for a home that wasn't rented previously, the rental price amount can't exceed 160% of the HUD fair market value for rental housing. So that is those numbers are very set out by HUD. They have lists upon lists of, based on property type and where it is, how much the HUD fair market value is. But basically, we don't want consumers to be taken advantage of when they've been displaced, when they're already in a hardship, to have to pay more for something that they shouldn't, to be gouged out of prices. And, this is rental price gouging because it applies to what we do at DRE, but it applies to, even goods, goods and, actual physical goods. But for us, we focus on the rental price gouging. Also, that restriction prevents someone from evicting a tenant and then re-renting a property. So we're trying to close a loophole here. We don't want people to be able to re-rent a property at a higher rate just because you were evicted the tenant and tried to get around that. So the answer is no, you can't get around that.
Okay, and there's, did you see the question? So we've got a question regarding, you mentioned landlords are allowed to evict, aren't allowed to evict rental tenants due to the fire. If the fire burnt the place down, then it's not an eviction, right?
That's true. Then I don't quote me on this. I'm not an attorney, but my understanding is that since there's no property, there's nothing to rent. So I don't know what the legal term is, but I don't know if that contract if there's a contract anymore because there's no property to live in. But yes,
Gotcha.
that's different. I don't believe that's an eviction at that point. That's a no contract kind of an issue. But yes, to appreciate the question. You guys are good thinkers. This is what I love about camp members. You're always thinking,
Well, and
being thoughtful.
we've
Yep.
got a DRE one that or an insurance one that I thought was interesting though.
Okay.
It says the insurance companies are slow to pay fire victims. Yeah, no kidding. Because of the large number of requests. Can the DRE expedite or have any impact on the insurance companies? Part of the problem for fire victims is not only dealing with the insurance companies' slow pay on claims, but also will not commit to a full year's rental when, you know, because they don't know when they're going to get paid. You know, they don't know when they're going to be able to move back into their house, all that stuff. So there's some issues there with speed. And the question is, can the DRE do anything to help with speed?
If I could snap my fingers, I absolutely would want to be able to. But we are separate from the Department of Insurance. I know the insurance commissioner, Commissioner Lara, has been doing a lot of engagement with insurance companies and doing a lot of speaking events. So he's got several webinars trying to address some of the issues that homeowners, business owners have been experiencing with insurance providers, specifically related to the recent fires, but then also just kind of the insurance issues that are happening. So I would encourage you to check out the Department of Insurance's website to get more information from them. They might have some of those webinars posted, but I've listened to a few of them myself.
Well, and to plug camp a little bit, Commissioner Lara was at our summer camp last year, and he has been invited again. I haven't heard back yet, but the invitation's out there.
See, camp is great. You got people. And you know what? I'm sorry, Jason. I was looking at the Q&A, so I'll be better.
I'm looking at both. Don't worry about it. I'll look at both.
Right.
You go ahead and focus on,
okay, gotcha.
on doing your presentation.
Thank you. With the rental price gouging, let's see. It applies to any residential tenant in any residential housing. What I love about the real estate industry and the mortgage industry, property management industry, the real estate industry in general, is that it's full of wonderful, creative people. Some people try to use that creativity for other purposes. And one of them is the definition of housing in the penal code related to price gouging was limited to a 1 year, so 365-day lease. And so people were signing 366-day leases to try to get around the price gouging rules. So, so the executive order filled that gap and said, it doesn't matter what the law says, regardless of the lease term, you are still not allowed to price gouge. So love the creativity. Some people like you use that power for better things, not trying to get around laws, but it's not funny. I'm sorry. Price gouging is not funny. But I'm just trying to create a moment of levity to address how people use their creativity. What is excluded from the rental price gouging is if a property hasn't been rented. It wasn't rented for 1 year prior to the emergency, and it's a single family home, 4 bedrooms or more in very specific zip codes, then it's not subject to the rental amount restrictions. Also, if it's new housing. So if the housing was first issued a certificate of occupancy for residential use after January 1st, not included in the rental price gouging. So charge away, I guess. As you can tell, I do take my job very, very seriously. I take consumer protection very seriously, but in order to do that, I have to use levity, because if I'm not laughing, I'm crying at some of the things that we've seen. So speaking of crying, if you are involved in rental price gouging, then here are some of the ramifications: civil penalties, potential imprisonment. So it's a pretty big deal. We've getting reports of it. We've been hearing from our law enforcement partners about the issue and looking at licensees who have been involved. So if you know your clients have experienced this, please report it to us so we can properly investigate. Oh, and there's the LA fires at dre.ca.gov email address. Again, please use this for anything fire related, to report violations, to, if you're a licensee or an examinee and you need help from DRE, please use this email address to send in the concerns or questions that you have, and we will respond as quickly as we can. Oh, there's it. Seeking help with renewals or exam rescheduling, reach out to us. As an outcome of the what's been happening in Southern California, there are some things that we've been thinking about in terms of what's next. What's the next consumer protection issue? And I'd love to get your input on this too, things that you're seeing now or things that you see as up and coming issues. Obviously, we want to ensure that consumers are making good decisions. They're not feeling pressured to make decisions, which ties into the unsolicited under fair market value offers situation. We want consumers and licensees to be well educated. So we want them to have information to make, again, good decisions for themselves on their own time. Are also concerned about potential undervaluation of properties. And again, ties into making sure consumers have good information about what their properties are worth, that people who are land speculators aren't making those decisions for them about what they think should be fair market value. And so that takes working with people like you who are educated, who have knowledge, experience, to know what the good next step is for that particular person. Also worried about if a property experienced fire damage, it's been repaired, making sure that that gets disclosed to a potential home buyer. Also worried about kind of the unscrupulous behavior that comes in. Unlicensed real estate activity, someone coming in pretending to be a licensee and saying, hey, I can help you refinance your loan now that your property is damaged, or I can help you avoid foreclosure because, I know your lender's not working with you, or I can help you modify your loan. So we're, concerned about that kind of activity, which we saw, 10, 15 years ago. Worried about unlicensed contracting. Obviously, this isn't within our scope. We have the Contractor State License Board that oversees contractors, but we want to make sure that our real estate licensees who are recommending particular contractors, make sure they're only working with licensed contractors, because we have heard stories of unlicensed contractors taking the full amount of the work and then running with the money and never performing the work. Also worried about imposter scams. Government officials, again, not under our jurisdiction, but something we want you to be aware about. People saying, hey, I can inspect your property for fire damage or for debris removal. Give me X amount of dollars, and then they run with the money. Rental scams is another one. This is probably going to be a little more prevalent than the others, but hey, this property is available for rent when it's really not. Give me your deposit. Usually those homes we find are ones that are available for sale, not available for rent. So they'll just take a listing from a multiple listing service and then put it on some third-party site and say it's available for rent and just take people's deposits and then run with the money. Another one we're worried about is investment scams. Hey, we know that these properties are available. Why don't you invest in these loans or invest in buying these properties together? So those are kind of the things that we're looking out for as a current or next consumer protection issue. Again, love to hear your thoughts on that. Sure. And I'm going to unshare my screen.
So I do have another question right now that I kind of think is interesting. It kind of is interesting, actually. It says, I Are you aware of any of the building restrictions that these areas had, especially the ones that were affected by the Coastal Commission, that type of stuff? Do we know if they're going to be eliminated? And I like his little point because there is no longer an environment left to protect.
Mm. I haven't read into all of the efforts, but there are definitely efforts to, how do I phrase it? And how did I read it? To not eliminate, but kind of temporarily even lift restrictions to allow for more efficient rebuilding, to more efficient debris removal, and then more efficient rebuilding, including some of the more restrictive laws, some of the permitting processes. So I know there are a lot of different agencies and government departments working together to try to help communities rebuild, not maybe eliminating, but relaxing on some of those restrictions or being a little more flexible with them.
And I know that there are some organizations trying to put together some legislation and stuff to make SB9 more allow SB9 to be a little less restrictive, because there are some areas that are still restrictive, even though we have SB9, which allows for the lot split. And there's some legislation, I think it's 433. I'd have to look up the exact number that would loosen it up a little bit more to allow the lot splits. And it specifically has to do with around what's happened down there for the rebuild and so forth. Do we have any more questions?
Let's see.
LA County. Okay, so LA County, it says LA County is allowing unattached ADUs as housing as the final housing or temporary as the homeowner is rebuilding. Really?
Good to know.
And then question regarding unlicensed contracting. As a DRE licensee, can a broker with a construction management experience perform services and get paid to manage a construction project for the homeowner who needs to rebuild their home, but does not have any experience reviewing bids, negotiating, etc.?
I'm not fully, let's see. I mean, just off the top of my head, it sounds like unlicensed contracting, because a real estate license doesn't allow you to perform contracting services. So my gut is a no. I would ask you to reach out to Contractor State License Board to get more information on that.
Does to do construction management, I guess the question would be, and I agree, go check with them, but it's do construction management, are you required to have a contractor's license? I think that's really where the question.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but you make a valid point. Go talk to, that department. Regarding the question, there's actually a CAR form for that purpose. We would hire a licensed contractor. There you go.
That's great to know.
Answer. We got to answer ourselves.
I'm glad. I'm glad it's on there. I know there has been some. There have been some changes as to how much the threshold for licensed activity versus unlicensed activity. But I would always encourage somebody to use a professional that has experience in what they're doing.
Well, and I love the question. A question we just got. Because it goes along with kind of what I was talking about. Now that the CFPB is about to get dismantled, what is the DRE doing to prevent bad actors from unfairly compete with good mortgage brokers?
Sure. Let us know what you're seeing. We have 430,000 licensees and currently 380 something staff. So there aren't enough of us to see what's going on a day-to-day basis. So whatever you're seeing, bad actors is kind of broad. Give me specifics. What kind of bad acting are you seeing or hoping to prevent with CFPB?
We'll see what Matthew has to say.
Yeah, okay.
So one of the things I was going to ask is, I know we were talking a little about what's going on in LA. But do we have any other general changes at this point that you see coming? And you were talking about some of the stuff earlier before we went online that, there's been reviewing some stuff. And so what do you see out there right now that might be coming, changes that we should be aware of?
In the mortgage realm, I'm not sure. Gosh, what were we talking about? Jeez, I'm so sorry. I got involved in the conversation and then changes that I see coming. There's just been so much happening with the real estate, the residential real estate side of things, and so many changes and a lot of things happening there. I haven't seen as much in the mortgage side of things, maybe on foreclosures. But yeah.
So we have somebody here talking about YIMBY and that's the legislation I was talking about. YIMBY is supporting legislation to make it try to loosen some of the restrictions around SB 9. It might be 677. If you want to learn more about some of this legislation, actually it is 423. If you want to read about 423, feel free to go to thecampsite.org under advocacy, and I have listed any bills that I thought might be interesting or might be relevant to what's going on, and you can go read through them. We, as a committee, haven't gone through and said support or not support right now. We obviously probably will, but it's a great resource if you want to see what's going on. I put up 423 on that list yesterday because it is designed to loosen the restrictions are on SB 9, and it very much is around this aspect of things. So we've got somebody asking about radio ads. There's lots of radio ads without disclosing required disclosures. I know some of them are not even licensed. Many of these ads are in the media and are not in English. Any media that are not in English.
Sure. Yes. And again, please report those to us. I know I hear them myself, the radio ads where there's no disclosure of licensure. You'd have no idea who they are, if they're licensed or if they're legit. So please report those to us, even if they're not in English. We have a lot of staff that speak a lot of different languages. We also have the ability to get those translated through other services. So, and we can always reach out to the radio company to find out more information on who's putting out that advertisement. So please, please, please report it to us, because otherwise we wouldn't know about them.
Now, do we have any more questions? I don't see any more coming in at the moment, but I'm sure if we keep talking, there we go. Transitioning CAMLOs to W-2. So that's obviously one that we've had lots of conversations about. Transitioning California MLOs to W-2, law or broker preference.
So that has been a topic of conversation for as long as I can remember. And the real estate law is pretty explicit in saying DRE has no say. We don't get to control how you categorize your employees or independent contractors. So I know I've heard of other interpretations of federal law that may be a little more restrictive, but yeah, it's not something that DRE can give an opinion on. Even it's just there's a law that explicitly says DRE does not get to have a say in this.
No, that helps us with understanding. Thank you, Eddie. Eddie Carroll, who asked that question, is a former East Bay board member. So,
okay.
Thank you, Eddie. So next question we have is, actually, it's more of a statement. It would be great
Sure.
if media will be responsible for ad content's unlicensed advertising. That's an interesting question. Is there something that can be done about it?
What we have done is if we find that a particular we will ask. We've had maybe a particular radio station or a particular when they were around newspaper who would, put out classified ads, or we've worked with Better Business Bureau even when it comes to rating unlicensed companies. So we will send them a copy of a desist and refrain order and let them know, hey, we've let this person know that they're not allowed to advertise because they're not licensed. But really, it's an ask from us because we don't have any authority over them. There's actually an exemption from the law that says if you're just acting as a newspaper or a radio station, you're the kind of just the classified, you're the platform, then we don't have any authority over you. It's the person that is actually advertising, the one that is, the broker or the unlicensed person. It's their responsibility, and that's who we have authority for. But yes, we will try to reach out to the platform itself to say, hey, just FYI, we've put this person on notice that they're not supposed to be doing this activity. And then, however they take it, it's up to them.
I don't know how this would fit with this, but it's an interesting statement. It says some of the fire impacted people are concerned about EPA only testing 6 inches down for toxic contamination. Is there a disclosure we need for this condition? That's a great question.
Ooh, I don't know the answer to that. EPA is only testing. Hang on, let me write that down.
There you go.
Actually,
thank you for that question.
I can't write fast enough, so I'm going to copy and paste it.
Can we stay anonymous when reporting unlicensed activity and marketing? And I knew the answer to this one, and yes.
Yeah. So Matthew, yes. Yes. So if you go to our website and you go to the complaint filing process, you can absolutely stay anonymous. My ask of you, if you do that, is to just provide as much detail as you can on the unlicensed activity, on the person, where they are, what you saw, what you heard. And then just know that once you submit it, we're not going to be able to provide any updates to you, or we won't be able to contact you to get more information. So just know that our investigation becomes a little more limited, but that's all right with us. Any report is a good report. We want to know what's happening so we can keep our eyes and ears out for it too.
Yeah, and that's the one on the contamination is very interesting as Jill has come back and stated that the other fire areas have shown contamination much deeper than 6 inches.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. I think those are going to be the down the road things that we're going to need to start considering. So yeah, thank you, Jill.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions? Also, Dale, do you have anything, or Christina, that you might want to jump in here with? Don't want to leave dead space. Other fire areas. Okay, we saw that some homeowners are hiring contamination removal companies to clear more soil. Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, that really does sound like some type of disclosure that would be something that could be appropriate.
Sure. And as a buyer, I don't know if I'd know to ask.
Right.
There was one in the Q&A. Let's see.
Nope, you're right. I missed it.
I only noticed because the little flag came up on.
Yeah.
Open space lots in the effect to become buildable lots. Oh, are you talking about the lifting of kind of the environmental protections? Okay.
Yeah, that is what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Areas that are tagged as open space and cannot be built in because of what's happened, the affected areas can those areas become buildable lots as they may not be affected by what had happened?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. Who would they talk to? Do you have an idea?
Let's see. I don't know if that's at local level or.
I will tell you that we are working with some legislators who are from that area. We are actually supporting their legislation for a number of different things. One of them, including forbearance in the fire affected areas. It was 180 days. I think they've extended it now to, or 365. That was one of the suggestions, or one of the addendums recommended by both CAR and us. I mean, we accepted it the way it was, but we agreed with CAR with regard to the amending it to extend it from 180 days to 365 regarding forbearance. That one is AB 238. There's also AB 239, which is a county-led disaster housing task force for that area. Those were revised. Actually, 238 looks like it's made it out of committee. So as of yesterday, it was 13 A's and 0 no's. But talking to your local legislator might be a great idea as well. Find out who the legislators are that cover that area. Again, you can go to the campsite.org. At the bottom of the advocacy screen, you can type in an address, and it'll tell you who your legislators are. And talk to them. It's a valid point that you might want to be talking to them about. And there's enough legislators trying to do stuff right now to support that area, to allow for housing to be built faster, to be more flexible, all that type of stuff.
And then there was another question on sunset on the executive order related to the unsolicited offer, below market value offers. And right now, I think the sunset is April 7th, but I believe also there's legislation in the works related to, similar activities. So where that is in the process, I'm not sure, and if it's going to be retroactive, all that kind of stuff, I don't know. But as for right now, the executive order is set to expire in early April 7th. And then again, legislation appears to be in the works as well.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, regarding the streamlined approvals, which are to support SB 9, it's actually 677. That's the legislation that's in process right now. So I know there's a lot of legislation right now out there to try to help streamline this process and make things move much faster, and to support the people affected by the disasters. And again, some of these questions very much go to your local legislator, talk to your local legislator, and see.
Or better yet, come to our legislative conference and you can meet with them in person.
Absolutely. We walk in trying to have a list of bills we want to support.
I did want to just bring up an issue sometimes that is an issue. It's the mortgage loan activity report, which I think is due shortly. Is it not, Chika?
Oh,
it's
yes.
the end of the first quarter.
Yes, it is. It's about that time.
And that's a report that a lot of people miss, correct?
It sure is. So thank you for the opportunity, or thank you for the reminder and the opportunity to spread the word. Yes, please complete your reports on time.
All right. Seeing as we got a couple of minutes at the national level, be watching for HUD releases regarding ROV and appraisals and all that type of stuff. There's some changes coming. There'll be some releases coming out with regard to those changes. They're in the process right now. We should see them we should see them anytime now. So
we also have been working on a consumer credit privacy bill, which is in regards to trigger leads for the state. So there'll be a lot of talk about that. If you come to the legislative conference, that would be great. Get involved in that. And hopefully we can push that through on the state level rather than there's been a lot of logjam on the federal level in regards to trigger leads, which everyone knows is a huge problem. So keep that in mind.
Chika, we got one more question. I think it's a great one to ask. We got a couple of minutes. Mortgage loan processing regarding DSCR. So DSCR loans are based on income of the property, to qualify. And it says that the lenders are telling us that the loan is considered commercial and no need for 1 to 4 unit disclosures needed. What should we do?
When in doubt, disclose.
Agreed.
1 to 4 unit disclosures. Okay. What's the difference?
See, well, and the way a DSCR loan is done, it has to be non-owner occupied, especially with the new legislation 3108. It has to be non-owner occupied. Just for the record, if you people have not heard of 3108, it is now a felony to use a DSCR loan to buy an owner occupied because you couldn't qualify any other way. So you're buying a non-owner occupied property under a DSCR loan. That's the way it works. If you live in it, it's now a felony under 3108 if you move into it. Now, I'm with you. I don't understand why you don't have to do a 1 to 4 unit disclosure. But from their perspective, the DSCR loans are considered commercial or business loans versus a residential.
Okay.
So that's why that comes up. But I'm with Dale. Most definitely always over disclose.
And well, from our perspective, you have to provide the mortgage loan disclosure statement. You're still a fiduciary and you have to provide, information. So maybe from a practical perspective, I just don't understand. Feel free to email me or, however you want to, get the information to me. But maybe I need a little more information, please, to be able to fully answer the question. I apologize, Matthew.
All right. I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. We're just about at the hour. I want to remind everybody to join the association. Go to the campsite.org. There's a lot of information Jason mentioned about legislative issues. Right on the homepage, all the different chapters that'll come right up of what's going on and chapters in your area. Tonight, San Francisco has a meeting at 6 o'clock. It's out at the boathouse. You can find that on the campsite.org and register. Starts at 6 and it's all on condos and there's an expert panel talking about all the changes that have occurred and what to do, what not to do, warrantable condos, non-warrantable condos, all that good stuff. So look for that. Spring camp, don't forget about that. May 6th and 7th, it's free. Go to the website, register for that. And I want to thank Chika Sunquist, our DRE Commissioner, so much for joining us and helping us and working with us throughout the years. It's been great. The whole question came up about the mortgage loan disclosure, and her and I worked together back a number of years ago, 16 or 17, to do an LE addendum that would cover that. So that is available from the association if you do want to use that. We kind of got a lot of people using it for a while, and then it sort of has trailed off. A lot of we got to get together with some of our technology providers because they're not including that, which we need to get them to do so that everybody's staying in compliance.
Sure.
So with that, thank you, Jason. Thank you, Christina, for all you do. And thank you, Chika.
I just wanted to interject really quick. Chika, again, thank you so much for being here. And anybody that has any additional questions, if it comes up today and you think, oh gosh, I should have asked that question, please go ahead and email Dale what your question is. He will go ahead and, loop with Chika and get back to you.
Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Happy spring. Bye-bye.